Welcome to Coast Vue, the show that every single day celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. I want to thank you for listening on 103.1 SuperTalk Gulf Coast. We're really proud to have this here, be part of this radio station. And or you may be listening on YouTube or Facebook or your favorite podcast. People come to the show in different ways. If you can't be here for when it actually plays on the radio in the mornings or in the afternoons at 1, then you can find it in other ways. And as I've said before, we get lots of numbers from Facebook, and the numbers are really good. A lot of interaction with the show, a lot of people engaging. It's a lot of fun to tell these stories. I came across a quote from Agatha Christie that I thought was powerful and reflects sort of the goal that I have for Coast Vue. And it said, here's what Agatha Christie said. We never know the whole man or woman, though sometimes in quick flashes, we know the true man or woman. I think that's so true that we see that in quick flashes. You know, a lot of times we don't know. I often wrote after Hurricane Katrina that we saw a lot of the type A personalities that we expected to come forward, and they did what we expected them to do, but some of them didn't. You know, they I guess they did a good job of self-promoting before the storm, but when the storm hit, they kind of collapsed. There are these type B people that you never really knew they were there, that came forward in ways we would have never imagined. And what that did is it taught us that we move too fast and we don't learn the essence of who people are. We too often don't do that. And Katrina gave us an opportunity to reflect on that and help us understand that we should look people in the eyes and spend a little bit more time to get to know them. And that's what I'm doing here on Coast Vue, spending more time to get to know the essence of who people are, so we can see in these little quick Coast Vue flashes who these true men and women are. And it's a real pleasure to bring these stories to you. I have a very special first part of the show today. Speaking of someone you get to know in quick flashes through this show, my friend Tish Williams, who's the executive director for the Hancock County Chamber, and someone I have been shoulder to shoulder with in the community for a lot of years. And then my new friend, Mark Glorioso, who's the actual current chairman of Partners for Stennis and Michoud. He has a long and storied career at NASA. And now he has a consulting firm that does a wide range of things that involve space flight. But anyway, welcome to the show, Tish and Mark.
Welcome. Glad to be back, Ricky.
It's good to see y'all. Actually, real quick, Mark, you're coming to the show from Picayune, right?
That's correct.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, we're gonna learn a little bit more about Mark, and in fact, in future show, I've invited Mark back already, because he has a heck of a career at Stennis. And by really delving into his history, we're going to learn a lot about the kind of people that we have at NASA. I mean, Stennis is over there sort of out of sight, out of mind. And it isn't for me because, as you know, here on the show, I often refer to them as one of the bookends. But, man, it is full of some smart people that are making major, major impacts on so many things, not just space flight. It's a heck of a story. But we're gonna talk a little bit more about Partners for Stennis and Michoud here in just a second. But you've been busy, hadn't you, Tish?
Oh, yes, sir. You know, we moved into a new office. It's beautiful. It's the historic City Hall for Bay St. Louis on at 300 South 2nd Street. And we're, furnishing it, and we're having community meetings on the first floor. And the building is just really coming to life, and it's becoming just a great community resource for our citizens.
Hey, you heard what I said about you may never know the whole man, but you can certainly see quick flashes. When you do leadership development or you work shoulder to shoulder with people who are engaged in the community, the flashes you see really are inspiring, aren't they?
It really is. And today is Leadership Hancock County. We have about 25 people in our community who are doing Industrial Day. They're going out to the Port Bienville Industrial Park. They're going to have an unbelievable tour of all of the industry there. And also they're going to come back to Lazy Magnolia for lunch, and then, have a speech from our new CEO. That's another person you can interview, the new CEO of the Port and Harbor Commission, Blaine LaFontaine. He's going to give an update from the commission. And then they'll hear from Millionaire, who managed the Stennis International Airport. So it's going to be a really informative and exciting day for our leadership class.
You guys, again, as you well know, I talk about leadership all the time. We can't have enough leaders who get it, who see the big picture. And as we've also discussed, you don't just go into leadership. You don't just decide I'm going to be president of the Hancock County Chamber. You got to go flex your muscles. You got to go learn, and you chair committees or get involved in committees and eventually chair committees and do all of that. But this focus that you guys have on leadership development, it can't be overstated how important that is, can it?
It really is. And the thing is, through this program, all you have to do is just make a commitment to be part of the program one day every month from September to June. And by the time the program is over, you will have witnessed everything that there is to know about Hancock County, from education to government to culture and arts, industry, business development, anything that's part of the community, you will experience through this program.
Well, this part of the conversation
along the way.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but this part of the conversation was one of the three major challenges I had when I did the address for the One Coast Awards this year. You remember well, but first thing I said is we have to fight complacency, and we'll talk a bit about this in a second with Mark Glorioso, and that is that Stennis and the blue chip industries that are there will always be there. We have to be strategically focused and not letting anyone get complacent. It's so important. Second, we got to fight this kind of gravity toward the status quo. You can't advance the ball if you're protecting the status quo. And lastly, leadership. We can't have enough leaders who get the big picture. And the work that the Coast Chamber is doing, the Hancock County Chamber, the Jackson County Chamber, the Business Council is doing through its master's program. It's all in an effort to help people understand how these complex dots connect in coastal Mississippi. And, if you look back, we've done a pretty good job at that, haven't we?
I think all of the challenges that we've had with the disasters that have come our way have really brought forth, as you said, people who may have thought, well, I'm not a leader. Yeah, everybody can be a leader. If you have the passion to make something happen, you are a leader. All you need is passion and focus, and you are a leader. So I say anybody who has something that they want to change in this world, yes, you're a leader. Step up and let's get it done. And the chamber can help you do that. Yes.
I love the way you say that. Step up for sure. Hey, let's bring Mark Glorioso, the chairman of Partners for Stennis and Michoud in the conversation. Mark, first, I want to get Tish to make a comment. But Mark, what I want you to be thinking about, I've been watching you nod your head. You understand the importance of leadership development when it comes to the community and why that's important. I want to hear your thought about that. But before we hear from Mark, tell me about your partnership with Mark, Tish.
Well, he stepped up when we needed a leader for Partners for Stennis and Michoud. And, COVID left a lot of associations like Chambers and Partners for Stennis dormant, and because we couldn't get together and meet face to face. And now we're back together, meeting face to face. We're actually going back to Jackson for Capitol Day, February 15th and 16th, where we're going to be taking a message of advocacy for Stennis Space Center in particular. And Mark can talk to you about some of those issues. And then we're going to actually make 2 fly-ins this year with our national coalition to DC, Citizens for Space Exploration. We're going to, there's almost 100 freshman members of Congress. So we're going to let them know why, funding the NASA budget robustly is so important to us as citizens. We're a grassroots advocacy organization. And then we'll go back in May with our national coalition to meet with all members of Congress. And then in March, we have this is something that everybody can be a part of, okay? If you're a citizen and you want to be an advocate for space exploration and ocean exploration, you can go online to partnersforstennis.org and you can join as a member and come to our meetings and be a part of what we are doing, because we are stronger when we are together. Our voice is louder when we have more people advocating for this.
I can't agree with you more. I'm with you and I share your passion. Mark Glorioso is the chairman of Partners for Stennis and Michoud, just like we said. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we're going to invite him back and tell his entire story. Incredible 34-year run at NASA. And one of the many things that he did is he led the team that designed the International Space Station communication system. So that's kind of the level of person that we're dealing with here. Hey, why don't we do that? I didn't realize this. I don't want to go to you and then we run out of time. We're at the end of this segment. When we come back on the other side, I want to get Mark's thoughts about why it's important to take our young people, and in some cases, maybe it's not just our young people, it's just anyone who wants to get engaged in the community, and teach them how the dots connect here in coastal Mississippi in a way that help them be better leaders. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Coast Vue. I have my friend Tish Williams, who's the executive director for the Hancock County Chamber, and a new friend, Mark Glorioso, who is the chairman of Partners for Stennis and Michoud, and someone I really look forward to getting to know. But, as you listen to that first segment, Mark, I'm sure that just a flurry of thoughts came to mind for you.
Well, I'd like to begin by just saying thank you to Tish. A lot of people don't see what all she does for the Partners for Stennis and for the Hancock Chamber of Commerce. And I'll just suffice to say, when you want to talk about leadership, you ought to talk to Tish. I think she gets it more than very many more people. As for this area, what's going on, we spend a lot of time in Partners for Stennis trying to help with the economic development of this area, trying to show the value of that jewel that is Stennis Space Center. I like to tell people I wasn't born in Mississippi, but I got here as quick as I could. And I came to work at Stennis Space Center, and I tested rocket engines, and I did things there that put me in leadership roles. And it has very unique applications in space travel with the Artemis rocket testing the engines. They've done applied sciences work. Now they're growing into a commercial area where they're bringing in more companies like SpaceX and Relativity Space and others who are very interested in taking space travel to the next level. One of the jobs of the federal government is to do things that industry can't or won't do until the point where industry develops. Then we hand it off to them, and we continue to use tax dollar money to build and upon those new things and do things like go to the moon, go to Mars, and there's great reason to go do those things.
Well, one of the interesting things, and we'll boil seriously down on this when you and I visit just around your history, but man, when you think about the commercialization of spaceflight, that creates such an opportunity for Stennis, but we really have to stay on top of that, though. We can't take it for granted, can we?
Absolutely not. In fact, we've been working very closely with Dr. Gilbrick, the center director over there, on what are the next steps to bring in more of this commercial entities. We've been looking at unmanned aerial systems. We've been looking at other government entities for this enterprise park concept, a growth. And they've already signed new commercial partners to do space rocket building, to do space rocket testing. It's really in a state of super development, in my opinion, and we just have to continue to get that message out as advocates to take that forward to the legislatures, to the Senate, to the House, to anyone that we can go and spend time with, which is Tish's really strong suit.
How often do you reflect on just strategically where Stennis is located, and the vision of our forefathers, like Senator John Stennis and all of those who were involved in the early days, setting aside this huge buffer zone and going, man, that took some serious vision, didn't it?
Yes, and one of the things that I loved as I progressed in my career, I like to say at the end of my career, me and 25 of my closest friends are running this agency. One of the things I loved about that was being able to sit in the room with all of the brilliant engineers, scientists, leaders, and administrators and figure out, how does NASA fit into the entire societal benefit? How do we create not just Stennis Space Center, but the entire future of humankind? And it's just mind-boggling to me how those guys in the 60s were doing that with even less than what we have today.
Yeah, the vision is amazing. I think I said it before, but like things like deciding to do an industrial seaway in Harrison County, to dig an industrial seaway and make something like that happen, to create something like Stennis and make that happen. And, the birth of Ingalls as this incredible shipbuilding facility, and Chevron, which is now the top refinery facility in the entire United States. I mean, you just go through the vision that helped us create these bookends. We cannot underestimate that or overstate that. When you hear, I see you smiling, Tish, as you hear Mark talking, but man, there is a lot going on at Stennis, isn't there?
There is. And, what I'm smiling about is that it's thanks to members of Congress who provided the funding to make all this happen, and then the local support that we get from all of our elected officials and everybody pulling together for that common goal. I mean, that's how it works. So we've been very fortunate to have good leadership at every level.
Well, you guys are headed to Washington to do your thing. Yeah. By the way, before we get to that, because we may run out of time, the Artemis launch was something significant, wasn't it?
Yes, it
Absolutely.
was. Mark can address that, because that was like absolutely the most exciting moment in history for all of us who've been advocating for this for so many years.
Tell us how important that was, Mark. The average Mississippian may not fully appreciate why that was so important.
Well, what we did was demonstrate the technologies and capabilities that we're going to need to do further exploration. We established, again, American leadership and strategic partners with our international friends. We've broadened our commercial relationships, and we have inspired a new generation. We plan to put the first woman and the first man of color on the moon. Now, people would say, why go back to the moon? Well, let me tell you this. If we find a cure for cancer on the moon, we're all going to be wanting to go back to the moon. And
Yes.
Think about the rainforest. We didn't know how valuable the rainforest was 100 years ago. And look at the medicine and the things that have come out of just what we were able to learn in the rainforest. It's the new frontier. The moon is going to get us on our way and to Mars and beyond.
Ooh, it is. It is. It's exciting. It's exciting to think about it, and exciting to think about Stennis's role and all that. So you're headed to Washington. We had just a minute or two left, Tish. That's really important, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And the first trip is actually going to be with all of the chambers of commerce along the I-10 corridor. And we're going to be going out in full force. In particular, the number one issue being insurance plaguing our region still. There are certainly other issues, but that's the number one issue that we want to talk about when we go on March 8th. At the end of February and the first week in March. And then we will then in March go and meet with all of the freshman members of Congress with our space advocacy message. And then we'll go back in May with our national coalition to meet with all members of Congress. So we have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to be proud of. And we have a lot to say in the way of thank you to members of Congress for supporting our efforts.
Hey, real quick on insurance, I got a memory this morning, I posted on my personal Facebook page, a show that I did a year ago with Mike Chaney, where we talked about risk rating 2.0 from the flood insurance program. And because of the way that's ramping up, it's not on people's radar screens the way it needs to be on their radar screen. But the reality, as you well know, is not good if their goal is to make it actuarially sound both commercially and residentially. I think more Congress has really got to get focused on a catastrophic coverage of some sort so that we're spreading the risk across the entire United States. If we don't, coastal communities across the country are going to be in serious trouble. I know you guys are focused on that. That's probably why it's number one on your list.
All right. We have a list, but that's number one.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear it. And when you get back, we'll have you back on and whoever else you think should be involved in that. And we'll have a conversation about it so we can keep it on people's radar screen. We're coming to the end of our time together, but Mark, one of the things that I look forward to chatting with you about is your incredible career that led to this. And we'll spend some time on that show talking about Partners for Stennis and MISU and why that's important, the relationship between MISU over in Louisiana and Stennis and why that's so critical, the kind of companies that are involved, the kind of leaders that are engaged. And eventually, as I mentioned before the show started, I'm going to dive in and begin to bring some of those leaders onto the show. Because if I'm going to talk to people about, we can't get complacent about Stennis. I don't want to be complacent about Stennis. I want to really begin to draw the picture of the importance to Stennis, to not only Mississippi, but to the United States of America and how it all fits together. A final word, Tish, before we sign off.
Well, if you want to learn more, go to partnersforstennis.org and join us. And we need all voices together, because when we are together, we are stronger. And when we are stronger, people will listen.
There's no doubt about that. Kyle, we're coming to the end, buddy. Is that where we are? Okay, very good. Hey, what we're going to do when we come back after the break is we're actually going to have members of the executive committee for Coast Young Professionals thinking about leadership development, the importance of it. But Coast Young Professionals has really done some incredible work, and I think you'll agree once you see some members of the executive committee, the conversation that we're going to have after the break, that we're in good hands these days with the young people who are coming up. I'm really excited about what they're doing and the kind of people who are engaged in it. So they're going to be flexing muscles for our good, and these are the folks who are going to be leading these major initiatives going forward as the rest of us sort of retire from public life. So anyway, we'll see you after this break.